Put down your pens, grab your headphones, and turn off the television. It's time for your favorite podcast show that supports people like you and me. Available on all podcast channels and on YouTube. It's the Dr. Bryant Speaks podcast show and your host, Dr. Bryant.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this edition of Dr. Bryant Speaks. Our show, of course, is for all those military veterans and families out there in the world. My name is Dr. Bryant. I'm also a veteran. I am your host. I want to thank those who are returning. I appreciate all the comments, all the feedback, and some of you guys like to give advice. And again, I read everything that you provide. So continue to do that. I appreciate it. Those who are new to listening, I want to say thank you for tuning in. This is an amazing opportunity for us to share information, find resources, and get experts who are out there doing their thing. That is important because we cannot always find out what information is available to us. So I take it upon myself and a few of my friends to find that information and share it with you. And that brings me to today. Today, I have a special guest, somebody who has actually been there and done that, but more importantly, is continuing to pay forward every day. I want to say welcome to retired Colonel Christopher Starling. Please say hello, Colonel Starling.
Hey, Dr. Bryant, thanks for having me on the show. Really a pleasure to be here.
All right. So I know you told me to call you Chris, so I'll do that moving forward, but I had to at least address your title. It is important that my audience understands that when we bring on guests, sometimes, we have experts who just basically are academic, but it is especially special when you have somebody who is a U.S. Marine, he's a colonel, he's an officer, and he's still involved and still giving back. So I'm not going to take any more of your thunder. I want you to tell the audience about yourself. Feel free to give us some background about who you are and how you came to be in this position.
Sure. So really quickly, I was born overseas in Germany, and I did my primary school in the Scottish Highlands. I did high school in Rhode Island. And I went to college in Virginia. So you can probably put two and two together and guess I grew up in a military family.
That's right.
Living all over the place. So I was multiculti before multiculti was cool.
I love it.
And I had some great leaders and mentors growing up. I had a Marine Corps scholarship to college. And I got out and I spent 26 years on active duty, and I served in all 4 Marine infantry divisions. I had some really interesting jobs doing counter-drug work in the San Francisco Bay Area. I was the only Marine instructor at the military academy at West Point.
All right.
I got to be the partnership division chief at U.S. Africa Command when it stood up. And I got to be a Hoover Fellow at Stanford for a year and just spend a year studying and thinking about things. And along with that, I got to lead the 2nd Battalion, 2nd Marines out of Camp Lejeune, and I commanded the 23rd Marine Regiment out of California. And I just had a lot of really great leaders and great experiences. And then I approached that transitional period where it's time to move into the civilian sector and figure out what to do. And I landed in the nonprofit arena, and where I am now at NPower has really been the most fulfilling thing, because I help not only veterans who are going through that same transition kind of that I did, but in tougher times. And I also help young adults from underserved communities. And the cool thing is bringing those two communities together and working with young people every day. I have a theory that's going to keep me young. And that might not look like it's working, but I have a theory.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've been looking at NPower, and I've noticed that it's actually based in New York. However, you're the executive director of the California branch. So tell us about NPower in general, and then you can kind of segue into your particular branch and your responsibilities.
Sure. Well, I wouldn't be a military guy if I didn't have a mission statement. So, NPower, task and purpose, right?
Right, exactly.
So, NPower creates pathways to economic prosperity by launching digital careers for military veterans and young adults from underserved communities. I hone in on the word. When people ask me, what do you do, Chris? I don't go, well, I work at a nonprofit. I go, I create pathways. And creating pathways for us military guys, that includes an obstacle clearing detachment. So sometimes it's a machete and I cut some vines out of the way on a mountain trail. Other times I get a D9 bulldozer in there and I knock down barriers for people to get training, to get social support, and get a job. And
Nice.
those people I mentioned already, it's young adults from underserved communities and it's veterans. And add to that the really important veteran spouses. I provide free training, 16-week program. I get them 2 CompTIA certifications. And then I have a 3-person placement team that helps them with their resume, helps them get mock interviews. And when a time comes to get them an internship or job, we're out selling those resumes. We're putting them on the street so that a recruiter gets them from NPower, not fishing them out of Indeed.com or whatever other, giant electronic holes there are where our resumes go when we apply for a job. Have that personal handoff and personal touch. And that's
Absolutely.
what NPower does. And NPower is unique because we have the training, we have our own instructors, we do it virtual online right now. We used to do it all in class, but COVID made us go online. We have a social support manager that calls every student every week and makes sure they're doing okay. You got housing, you have food, you have Wi-Fi, you have a laptop. And if they don't have those things, we can help support them with those things. So it's training, social support, and job placement under one roof. And that's what makes us unique. NPower is in 7 states right now. So we have, I'm the executive director for California. My colleagues are in Baltimore, Maryland, Detroit, Michigan, St. Louis, Missouri, Jersey City, and Newark, New Jersey, and Harlem and Brooklyn, New York. And lastly, I've got another good friend, Army veteran. He's in charge of NPower Dallas, Texas. They serve only veterans there. So some of our places, like in New York, serve only young adults because that's what the population is. Some of us serve just veterans, like in Dallas, and New Jersey and California, we have a mix of both. And I love it. I call it peanut butter and chocolate because those veterans reach down and help those young adults and mentor them. And those young adults help us veterans chill out from our highly over-regimentalized lifestyles, right?
Right, exactly. Now, I see that NPower actually, it focuses on technology, tech fundamentals, cybersecurity, cloud computing, etc. Now, that is interesting because let me back up a second. First of all, I noticed that a lot of your supporting companies are pretty powerful companies. We're talking Accenture, KPMG. So there's an invested interest in here. And I know that one of your recent graduates is over at, I think, Intel or something. Talk a little bit about that relationship with these big multi-million-dollar companies.
So, yeah, thanks. That's a great question. So we have some amazing sponsors out there, and I hate being put on the spot because I'm going to skip one that's really great, and I'll probably hear about it later.
Okay.
But you mentioned some of them. Accenture, wonderful company. Citibank, incredible. Google, who, by the way, my last honor graduate was a young soldier getting out of the Army. He's now an intern at Google. Google is as hard to get into as Harvard.
Yes,
and
I know.
Somehow, that happened. We have people at the San Francisco Giants. We have people at the County of Santa Clara. Deloitte is a great partner here. So you've got and I've got one of my graduates at General Dynamics. So some are the defense contractors, some are those tech companies. And what I find amazing is I will partner with anybody. But what I'm trying to do is, just like you spread load your military assets, you don't want to clump up in one place. I want to get my graduates in as many different companies as possible. That way, if there's layoffs or furloughs due to COVID at one place, I don't get 12 students or 12 alumni laid off at one time. I get 1 or 2 and I can replace them. So I try to spread load my assets. I learned that in the Marine Corps when you're getting on helicopters. You don't put all your machine guns on the same helicopters. You spread them out.
Exactly.
So, you can see where I'm using my military training here. But we have great companies, great firms. They support us. I'll also mention we're a Department of Labor partner, a registered apprenticeship partner. We create IT generalist apprentices. So once our students graduate and they spend 2,000 hours on the job, the company that we have a an understanding with or a partnership with Department of Labor, they get a certificate from Department of Labor as an IT generalist apprentice. That's a really great thing. An apprenticeship is something that, you can come out of high school, you can learn something, a really good trade skill, and IT is one of those skills, and you can have a lucrative career that way. And I'm all for going to college. I'm all for using the GI Bill, but maybe there's a period in between, or maybe you stop college and do something else for a while. But the truth is, you can leave high school, leave the military, and get into a profession like IT, and with the certifications that are out there, you can make a good living and be on your plan to retirement, and you're not going to have a ton of student debt around.
That's
and
right.
I haven't mentioned yet, this program at NPower is 100% free for veterans, for veteran spouses, and for young adults from underserved communities. And thanks to those great companies that I just mentioned and a bunch more that I don't have the list in front of me, man, they make it happen. And I've got a talented staff that we get those young adults and veterans through those barriers.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I see the list, and I can't say them all too, but California Technologies, you mentioned Accenture, there's Hewlett Packard Enterprises. A lot of those companies are major. I used to work in the state government, and I know a lot of those companies contract with state government, and you mentioned Department of Labor, which is on the federal side. So you're opening up doors and opportunity at state, federal, and private. And as you said, you want to spread your resources. And these companies are literally involved all across that. So that's amazing. That absolutely is amazing. So I got a question for you, Chris. The N in NPower, does that have a meaning? I mean, how did that come about? Do you have any insight on that?
Sure. Yeah. What it means is it's to the nth power. It's the multiplier effect. Oh. Right? To the nth degree is a common saying. So we're gonna get people started. I tell my students, I'm like, you're gonna get on the information superhighway in an employment mode. I'm gonna get you up to 55 miles an hour and up the on-ramp on that information employment superhighway, which is respectable. There's gonna be a lot of cars still passing you. You're gonna have to get more certifications so you can get into that left fast lane and be going 75 or 80 or maybe faster, but you're gonna have to get more certificates. And that's where the cybersecurity, the cloud, the advanced certificates and those kinds of things come in. Then they're really gonna be tracking. And a lot of our alumni have been immensely successful in, once they've got the foundation of tech fundamentals that we provide, speeding up. So it is the nth degree multiplier. We're gonna nth degree you in terms of your career progression. The opportunities are limitless.
Yeah. Technology, I've been around technology for years. And I don't want to date myself, but it goes way back to when we had BASIC and COBOL. But, the technology even continued to be a part of me because I even talked about it in my dissertation about how it has the lowest unemployment rating across all of the different job functions. And so when I talk and see that, I noticed that, I believe I got this from your website, or at least in my research, the training in this area is about $10,000. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, if that's accurate or the number's accurate, but I'm curious, is the funding all coming from these corporate sponsors based on your relationship with them, or is it coming from private donors? And because you did say it's free, so give us some insight on that. Yeah,
so it is yes to everything. So nationally, if you look at nationally and we average it, it's around $7,500 to put one student through from, and I'm talking about somebody who has 2 or 3 t-shirts in their wardrobe. They're having a hard time putting food on the table. They've got a part-time job or a low-level job at fast food or something like that, which has been really hit by COVID, the whole restaurant industry and hospitality industry in general. And so they're struggling. It cost me $7,500 on the national level. Here in California, it's a little more expensive, especially in Northern California. My last figures that I did, like a typical Marine, $9,058 per student. I can drill down on those numbers. So $9,058 per student, that takes them from, I know how to use an iPhone and do email, to ITF Plus certified by CompTIA and A Plus certified by CompTIA. And it gets them clothes. I have a social support manager, and I asked her, I said, Emily, What happened to we had a wardrobe. We used to get people to come in and we'd fit them for clothes and we'd take pictures. And I said, how are we getting them clothes? She goes, oh, it's okay. I got it. I'm mailing them their clothes. I'm like, well, how can you possibly do that and know their sizes? She goes, well, I tell them to give me their size and I give them 3 outfits, one smaller, one exactly what they wanted, and one size larger. So when they try them on, then they just send it back. And I'm like, you're Stitch Fix. You're Stitch Fix. This is one social support manager serving 50 students, right? And
wow.
So we make sure they have clothes. 4 days a week are tech training. 1 day a week is reserved for professional development. And you know how important this is. The soft skills, everything from resume writing to how to interview, how to dress properly, sexual harassment policies in the workplace that you're going to see, email etiquette. Do not reply all to every email that you get. All these little things, we cover them. And as a Marine, I look at it like this is like Colonel Starling's boot camp for veterans and young adults, and I make them work together. They have to do projects together and grow together. They're not just mentor and mentee, they're classmates and partners in this. And when they come out, you know what? I have to go to companies like Google and Accenture and vouch for them and say, hey, you know what? Fred or Diane, they've accomplished something here. They've been on time to class, they dress properly, they do all the Zoom etiquette, and I have confidence they're going to go in and be a force multiplier in your company. Give them a chance. And that's that's the crux of what I do.